Hello and welcome. Bit of technical problems because I've managed to set this up and change the direction of what the screen is pointed at. So that's interesting. But yeah, so this is what happens when you don't check everything works before you start, and you have to set it. There we go. So now we're set to the other monitor. Again, slightly later kind of uploading this, creating this, I guess, than normal because bit of a busy day. And we are kind of blessed with two different factions today. So we have CSM and Daemons. So Demon Prince pretty fitting as he kind of covers both. Going to go through these relatively quickly. There are a few little bits of new rules and other things which is good to have information on. I'll do those hopefully prior to them coming up, so it kind of gives a bit of context about what we're going to learn. We'll start off with the Chaos Space Marines, and as kind of normal we have the 3 detachments as far as we know, because they've said that's the case. They're all going to be 1 detachment point, and yeah. So the first one is Cabal of Chaos. This is focused on Psyker, so it's kind of a rework of the one that was released recently. So detachment rule, Empiric Wellspring, shooting phase, a Heretic Astartes Psyker unit excluding demon units. When it is selected to shoot, if it makes a Dark Pact, +1 strength. It's nice. In the fight phase, Demon Princes excluding Khorne because it hates Psykers. When they make a Dark Pact, they get +2 strength, +1 AP. Is a really good breakpoint for Demon Princes who kind of are lacking in damage and output somewhat. They've kind of been a bit wet noodly this edition in terms of how much damage they do outside of the Emperor's Children Demon Prince, where obviously the kind of go-to was take 3 because that was, until Defilers arrived, the best thing they could do. We then have Touched by the Warp, so if you kind of want to get Psychic on, or Psyker keyword and Psychic on a particular unit, you can do. You just use this enhancement. There we go. It doesn't have upgrade keyword, so you can't use it multiple times, so you get to choose one. And not 100% sure what would be the best target. I kind of wonder whether you'd want to put it on maybe because it's shooting. Not really sure what you'd want to put it on for that, really. Not really got any shooting really in characters. Outside of, you've got the kind of 2 melter shots at short range on the Disco Lord. I suppose +1 strength on the Bale Flamer for it would be kind of cute, but it doesn't, as it doesn't impact the unit. Putting it on like a Chaos Lord doesn't really buff anything, it's just them. And the worst kind of case is that most of the time all you'll do is on a Chaos Lord is give half the game a feel no pain against psychic attacks. So yeah, not 100% sold on that enhancement. There might be something useful. I just can't think of one personally. That's not already an epic hero, so you can't give it to them anyway. Fleshy Curse is the strat. 1 friendly Heretic Astartes Psyker unit. Select 1 visible unit within 12 of your unit, roll 1d6. What's interesting is that even on a 1, you still do a mortal wound, then 2 to 4 d3, and 5 to 6 2d3, which is, you know, on average you're doing 2 mortal wounds, which is nice. Yeah, 1 CP to do a worse grenade, in theory. Because on average it's 3, but with grenade, so I don't know, but it's slightly longer range because it's 12. You can have advanced, You do have to do it right at the start, so you can't kind of use it like most people do grenade, kind of move around and then use it afterwards. So not really sold on this really as a set of profile for detachment. Is 1 point. The psychers have been kind of lackluster for CSM for the entire of the edition, so I don't really expect that to massively change. I'm going to go through heavy first because it then kind of makes the detachment make sense. Quite a big change to heavy. It still does +1 to hit as long as all of the below are apply. The unit has to be unengaged, which obviously one of the big things in this edition with Big Guns Never Tire. You had units that had heavy that basically then just cancelled out the negative of -1 to hit, so they cannot gain heavy and be in combat. They were not set up on the battlefield, so you can't come in from ingress to gain the benefit, and then you gain it still as long as you didn't move more than 3 inches, which is a bigger buff than kind of you think in most regards, because sometimes you just want to poke the unit round a corner just to get that line of sight. So kind of useful. At least you might get heavy more often than you kind of did in this edition, which half the time it was either an indirect piece because for some reason they all had heavy, or your unit was in combat. So there might be a few kind of options, and it kind of makes sense. And yeah, we'll see kind of how much of an impact it has in the new edition. We then have Devotees of Destruction, which Reign of Ruin, Havocs and Obliterators get heavy. There we go. That's why I went through that. So it's kind of nice. They might get heavy occasionally, and you can kind of stack this with them being in terrain. With the new Plunging Fire, as long as they're in a 3-inch high ruin, they'll get +1 ballistic skill and +1 to hit. And so yeah, gonna hit on 2s a lot of the time, and at least get around any -1 buff debuff. Enhancement, Path of Destruction is on a Warpsmith, allows them to reroll Dark Pacts, which is, you know, semi-useful. Their ranged output isn't huge, but if they kill a model, so it doesn't have to be the unit, they then heal 3 wounds. So there's quite a few things like that. We've got like Kronos and stuff like that kind of similarly. There you go, got the word. I genuinely have no idea what even it has as weapons. So you have the Flame Tendril, so you have the Flamer, Melter Tendril, a Plasma Pistol. So you have kind of 3 chances to do some damage. The Melter Tendril is only 6-inch range, so you have to be pretty close. So you're likely going to be picking off maybe a 1 wound model, nothing major. And then you have Ruination's Bounty, 1 CP, Havocs and Obliterators only. In the shooting phase, you get lethal and sustained. Yep, I mean, that's really good. So they can kind of drop in Dark Pact and, you know, shoot really well, in theory, depending on how many 5s or 6s you roll. So it's kind of like a 1 CP Hellbrute for 2 models. Again, it's only 1 detachment point for this. Havocs have seen absolutely no play, really. In 11th, they've kind of been fringe taken by a few people recently in Huron's Marauders. With Havocs, Obliterators have kind of seen a bit more play with Huron's Marauders initially, but they're not as widely used. I think, again, partly because you can only take them in units of 2. If they were in units of 4 still, then they'd be really good. But they might be too good, so I guess that's why they're in 2s. But yeah, again, very niche detachment, buffing 2 types of units, and it kind of waits to see whether they are any good, because again, I don't know whether, while the Havocs are in the Rhino, for example, whether they'll be able to get the benefit of heavy, depending on how firing deck kind of gets reworked. But yeah, I'm not massively huge on these detachments overall. We then have Murder Talon Raiders. Prey on the Weak is their detachment rule. Friendly Heretic Astartes infantry fly unit attacks that target a battle shock unit or one below half strength get reroll ones to hit. That's okay. When an enemy unit attacks, target a friendly Heretic Astartes infantry fly unit. If that unit is battle shocked or below half strength, then they're -1 to hit. Nice if being shot from range, and that obviously affects anything, so that's quite useful. It has the Nightmare tag, so can't have it with another Nightmare detachment. So if Nightmare Hunt makes it through, this would obviously be the probably obvious one that has that, or Dread Talons as well is probably going to have the Nightmare tag, if any of them have that. Chaos Lord jump pack gives his unit a 5-up invuln. Solid, taken with a bunch of Raptors. They're suddenly a lot more durable, especially with the fact that cover totally different. They're not going to be on a 5-up save against most things in the game. And then Plunging Talons 1 CP. They get Lance, as long as it is a Heretic Astartes infantry fly unit that made a charge this turn and is selected to fight. So you could pair this with Heroic, because it is not locked to your fight phase, but that is a 2 CP commitment. And you can only do it because they're 2 different phases. They get Lance, which, as it doesn't say anything anywhere else, and in the video it doesn't mention it as far as I could see. I'm assuming Lance is still +1 to hit, which with Warp Talons, sorry, +1 to wound. So with re-rolling 1s to hit, +1 to wound, re-roll wounds, hopefully it will trigger their ability. Or even on a big blob of Raptors with their pseudo number of Power Fist attacks with Lance, which then the Chaos Lord would also get. Kind of makes them a bit more interesting on kind of their damage output. But yeah, again, it depends on, for me, with this one, what you can combine it with. If you can combine this with Hurons and Marauders, for example, I think that makes it very interesting, because then they're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s to hit. Especially if for Raptors they've triggered the Battle Shock, then you can Lance and they're wounding a lot of stuff on 2s, if not 4s at worst against high toughness vehicles. So kind of interesting in that regard, but it depends on what you can pair it with. Yeah, that's the 3 ones for CSM. You then have, they mention a new keyword called mobile, which again is one that they're going to showcase in one of the Chaos Demon detachments. It allows units mounted the ability to move through things like ruins and walls when they otherwise wouldn't be able to, so they can move quicker. So I imagine we'll see this quite a lot on things, so things like Shining Spears. Thunderwolf Cavalry might have it as a strat, and then they'll gain mobile. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how many units gain this ability. The Cavalcade of Chaos is the first one. Unholy Alliance is the detachment rule. If a friendly Legion Demonica mounted unit made a fallback, they can still shoot and charge. So that's really good. As a kind of rule, fallback and shoot and charge gives you kind of a lot of ability to pressure, and then if you get tagged, kind of go back and recharge, especially for whatever the mounted unit's called for demons, Blood Crushers, there we go. They can then do their mortals again, and kind of get to fight without with the fight first side of things, which is really good. You then have Soul Shattering Charge as an upgrade enhancement, so you can take it 3 times, only on a mounted unit. So Fiends is another one. They can obviously take it when they're selected to fight. If they made a charge move, you can use the ability. If you do, when determining which models in this unit can fight, they go to 3-inch engagement range. So gain an extra 1 engagement range, which is pretty solid. Makes the range even further. can't complain. Again, depends on how expensive it is, but when you've got awkward bases and pivoting and everything like that, it allows you to kind of be a bit more free with the movement to be able to be in engagement range. Might end up tagging more units than you intended to, I suppose, is the only downside, which is why it's lucky it's a can, not a must. And then they have their 1CP Warp Strider strat, which is the one that allows a mounted unit only to move through ruins and walls for 1CP. It's a solid strat. Mounted, particularly on WTC, really struggled with being mobile around things and were really easy to move block, so kind of allows them to bypass that. And then you have Lords of the Warp. Detachment rule is Loci of Power. Friendly Legion demonic characters, models excluding monsters, so this is all about the little guys. Have +1 leadership and OC. Yeah, that's nice. They're going to be kind of on leadership 5, I assume that most of the characters are leadership 6 in Demons. I honestly don't know. I also am not massively au fait. Oh no, leadership 7, even on the Changeling. So he was an epic hero, so you can't take this, but that was the only one I could think of off the top of my head. Sloppy Bile Piper, I guess is another. I can't spell that as quickly. But it does at least allow them to be a bit, easier to pass. They'll now be on a 6 and be at least OC2, which is again nice buff. Swollen with Power upgrade, +2 wounds. Yep, more durable. Cannot take it on the monsters, can only take it on the other characters, which again they don't want leadership 4 and OC6 demons apparently, with 2 extra wounds. Shocking. You then have the Carnival Excess, 1 CP. This is for a Slanesh unit only, and you cannot use it on the big monsters again. So they're kind of stopping it from kind of going a little bit too over the top. They get fight first and must be the next unit that you select to fight. So yeah, that's really solid. 1 CP interrupt strat effectively for your demonettes and fiends. Yeah, solid strat. Wonder if there'll be kind of any others to go alongside this one for kind of each of the gods. So maybe whether there'll be 4 strats or whether it is limited, unsure. And then the final one, Warp Tide. We have the detachment rule, which is a cool name, Shudder Blink. When a battle line unit is selected to make an advance move, they gain Assault, and they also are eligible to declare a charge. So you have Advance and Charge and Advance and Shoot army wide. Really solid ability for the battle line units. So lots of I don't know really. Oh, what are they called? The bloodletters. There you go. They can fly forward and shoot. Plague bearers get a bit quicker, which is useful. And then they have the upgrade for the battle line unit, which again will impact any character you put with the unit, but it does give them +1 strength, which will be nice for different breakpoints. I imagine on their different units. I don't know what the base strength of a bloodletter is. In fairness, because that's the main one I'm kind of thinking of combat-wise is that guy. So they're strength 5, so strength 6 means anything but T12 they're wounding on at least 5s, which is quite nice. And then finally we have their strat for Demonic Infestation, 1 CP in the command phase, 1 battle line except Pink Horrors, heal 3 wounds. They obviously don't want that to happen any more than it already does. And yeah, that's kind of the 3 detachments for Chaos, and then the 3 detachments for CSM. So next week, World Eaters Death Guard are getting their own detachments previewed, as well as then the Sisters as well. So that will be the first one on Monday, it appears. Other thing is they've kind of said if you have questions, do email this, and there's going to be a Q&A next Friday. So I will kind of try and kind of surmise what's in that, and